March 10, 1945. 3 o'clock in the morning. Tokyo, Japan. Official Japanese government records document that in just under 3 hours, 267,171 buildings had been completely incinerated. More than 1/4 of Tokyo's structures reduced to ash. The United States Strategic Bombing Survey would later confirm what Japanese authorities could barely comprehend. Over 100,000 people were dead in one night from one raid, making it the single deadliest air attack in human history. But here's what makes this absolutely shocking. Just months earlier, Japanese military commanders had been openly mocking American B-29 bombers. Intelligence intercepts captured their dismissive assessments. The B-29s were too slow, they claimed. Too high-flying to be accurate. More propaganda than threat. Japanese Air Defense Command documents show they believed their fighter defenses and anti-aircraft guns had these American bombers completely neutralized. After all, previous American bombing raids had produced minimal damage. The numbers proved it. Official Japanese damage assessments from late 1944 and early 1945 showed American strategic bombing achieving almost negligible results against Japanese cities. Their generals were confident. Their defenses were prepared. Their intelligence told them the B-29 was overrated. Then General Curtis LeMay changed absolutely everything. In one night, official military records document that American bombers killed more people than the atomic bomb would later kill at Hiroshima. How did the same slow, ineffective B-29s that Japanese commanders had mocked suddenly become the most devastating weapon in military history? To understand this incredible transformation, we need to examine what happened when American innovation met Japanese overconfidence. Official Japanese military intelligence reports from late 1944 reveal exactly why they underestimated American air power. Imperial General Headquarters intelligence assessments from late 1944 paint a picture of remarkable confidence. Their analysis was based on hard data, and that data told them they were winning the air defense battle. The numbers seemed to prove Japanese superiority. From the first B-29 raid in November 1944 through February 1945, American strategic bombing had destroyed less than 2% of targeted industrial facilities. Japanese Industrial Survey reports documented this. XXI Bomber Command's own mission reports confirmed the disappointing reality. High-altitude precision bombing from 25,000 to 30,000 feet was achieving almost nothing. Japanese Air Defense Command records show they understood exactly why. At those extreme altitudes, jet stream winds over Japan reached 200 miles per hour. Meteorological data confirmed this. American bombardiers, according to capture intelligence assessments, were struggling to compensate. Bombs were scattering miles off target. Official damage reports showed entire raids missing industrial zones entirely. Even better for Japanese commanders, their defenses were inflicting real pain. Japanese fighter pilot reports documented shooting down or severely damaging 5 to 10% of B-29s on each mission. Anti-aircraft batteries log hundreds of hits. Aircraft performance data showed that at 30,000 feet in thin air, the heavily loaded B-29s were sluggish. Exactly as Japanese intelligence had predicted. Ki-44 and Ki-61 fighters could intercept them, and official kill claims seemed impressive. Intercepted American communications, analyzed by Japanese intelligence, revealed American frustration. Mission debriefs captured through signals intelligence showed United States crews complaining about impossible bombing conditions, mechanical failures in the extreme cold at altitude, and terror at running gauntlets of Japanese fighters. Most importantly, Japanese civil defense records documented that while air raid sirens were becoming routine, actual damage remained limited. Fire Department reports from Tokyo through February 1945 showed manageable losses. Hundreds of buildings damaged, not thousands. Casualties in the hundreds, not thousands. Japanese military leadership had every reason to believe their strategy was working. The slow B-29s were being contained. Home island defenses were holding. American strategic bombing was proving to be expensive propaganda with minimal results. General staff assessments concluded the B-29 threat was manageable, even overrated. But what Japanese intelligence didn't know was that one American general was about to throw out the entire strategic bombing playbook. When Major General Curtis LeMay took command of XXI Bomber Command in January 1945, official records show he inherited what many considered a failing campaign. The statistics were brutal. Mission report analysis revealed that of 30 major raids conducted from November 1944 through February 1945, only 3 had achieved even 50% of their objectives. The vaunted B-29 Superfortress, the most expensive weapons program of the war, at $3 billion, more than the Manhattan Project, was producing almost nothing. LeMay's initial assessment reports, preserved in Air Force archives, documented the problems with devastating clarity. Engine failures plagued the B-29s in the extreme cold of high altitude. Maintenance logs showed 15 to 20% of aircraft aborting missions due to mechanical issues. The Wright R-3350 engines were overheating, catching fire, and failing at alarming rates. Weather reconnaissance reports confirmed another enemy, the jet stream. Meteorological data showed winds at 30,000 feet regularly exceeding 200 miles per hour, making accurate bombing physically impossible with existing bomb sites. Mission photographs revealed bombs scattering across miles of countryside, missing factory complexes entirely. The human cost was mounting. Loss records documented over 100 B-29s destroyed in just 4 months. Each one cost $600,000 and carried 11 highly trained crew members. At this rate, arithmetic showed the bomber offensive would fail before achieving strategic objectives. Washington was losing patience. Joint Chiefs communications to LeMay, declassified decades later, reveal intense pressure. The invasion of Japan, Operation Downfall, was being planned for November 1945. Strategic bombing was supposed to soften Japanese industrial capacity and civilian morale before the invasion. Instead, intelligence reports showed Japanese war production actually increasing. Allied leaders were skeptical. British Air Ministry assessments questioned whether strategic bombing could work against dispersed Japanese industry. Even within the Army Air Forces, some commanders privately doubted the B-29 campaign would ever justify its enormous cost. LeMay had inherited a strategic failure. Official records show Washington gave him weeks, not months, to turn it around or face replacement. But Curtis LeMay's personnel file and previous combat records reveal he wasn't a conventional thinker. Declassified planning documents from February 1945 reveal that Curtis LeMay was analyzing a completely different problem than everyone else. While others focused on precision bombing of factories, LeMay studied Japanese industrial structure through Office of Strategic Services reports. The intelligence was eye-opening. 50% of Japanese war production came from small workshops and home-based manufacturing scattered throughout residential areas. Precision bombing of large factories was missing the real target. Even more critical, OSS architectural assessments documented Japanese urban vulnerability. Tokyo's construction records showed 90% of structures were wood frame with paper walls. Fire department data revealed narrow streets, just 10 to 15 feet wide in many districts that would prevent effective firefighting. Dense housing packed 100,000 people per square mile in downtown areas. LeMay's analysis went deeper. He obtained classified testing data on the M69 incendiary bomb, a hexagonal cluster weapon designed specifically to burn Japanese cities. WWII Proving Ground in Utah had constructed entire Japanese village mock-ups using authentic building materials. Test reports documented devastating results. M69 clusters could create sustained fires that overwhelmed firefighting capacity. Then came the breakthrough thinking preserved in LeMay's tactical directive memos. All previous raids had flown at 25,000 to 30,000 feet to avoid anti-aircraft fire. But aircraft performance data showed the B-29 could carry 3 times more bombs at low altitude, 5,000 to 8,000 feet, because it didn't have to climb as high or fight the jet stream. The trade-off: Japanese anti-aircraft gun performance data showed lethal accuracy at those altitudes. Fighter intercept rates would increase dramatically. Standard military doctrine said low-altitude night bombing was suicidal. The losses would be catastrophic. But LeMay's intelligence analysis revealed a weakness. Japanese night fighter capability reports showed only 75 aircraft dedicated to night defense of Tokyo. Anti-aircraft ammunition supply reports indicated limited stocks of shells. If American bombers could saturate defenses with numbers, the mathematics suggested acceptable losses. The final radical decision: strip the B-29s of all defensive armament except tail guns. Weight and balance calculations showed this would increase bomb load by another 65%. Mission planning documents reveal LeMay calculated he could deliver 2,000 tons of incendiaries in a single night, more than all previous Tokyo raids combined. His staff thought he was insane. Officer efficiency reports and diary entries record senior commanders warning this violated every principle of strategic bombing doctrine. The losses would be catastrophic. It was career suicide. LeMay's response, documented in command meeting minutes: "We're not bombing buildings anymore. We're burning cities. And we're going in at 5,000 feet where we can actually hit them." On March 9, 1945, LeMay issued the order for Operation Meeting House. Flight operation orders from March 9 reveal the stunning scope of what LeMay was about to attempt. Operation orders for Mission Number 40, dated March 9, 1945, reveal the meticulous planning behind what LeMay was about to unleash. Aircraft loading manifests document the unprecedented ordnance load. Each B-29 carried 24 M69 incendiary clusters, 6 to 7 tons of firebombs per aircraft. With 334 B-29s scheduled for the mission, 279 would successfully drop ordnance. Logistics reports show over 1,650 tons of incendiaries being loaded. Crew briefing transcripts preserved in the National Archives capture the shock among pilots. Briefing officers announced cruising altitude 5,000 to 9,000 feet. All defensive guns except tail position removed. Flight formation: individual aircraft paths, not tight formations. Attack duration: 2.5 hours of continuous bombing. Veteran pilot accounts recorded in post-war interviews describe the stunned silence. These were crews who'd been flying at 30,000 feet for months. Now they were being ordered into the teeth of Japanese defenses at the altitude where anti-aircraft fire was most accurate. Many privately believed they were being sent on a suicide mission. Weather reconnaissance reports from March 9 indicated perfect conditions: clear skies over Tokyo, wind speeds 15 to 20 miles per hour at ground level, ideal for spreading fires. Temperature 45 degrees Fahrenheit, relative humidity 45%, dry conditions. Japanese meteorological data would later confirm these were optimal conditions for conflagration. Japanese radar tracking logs captured after the war show defense forces detecting the American bomber stream at 0030 hours, March 10th. Air raid sirens sounded across Tokyo at 0035. Tokyo Fire Department dispatch records document fire crews mobilizing to normal preposition locations. But captured Japanese Air Defense Command logs reveal a critical misunderstanding. Radar operators reported the American formation as scattered and disorganized, not recognizing this was intentional. Fighter Command dispatched only 26 night fighters, believing this was a small, confused raid. Civil defense records show Tokyo residents responding to the air raid sirens with routine procedures. Many had heard these warnings dozens of times over previous months, with minimal damage resulting. Post-war survivor interviews describe people moving to shelters calmly, even casually. At 0008 hours, March 10, 1945, the first B-29, a Pathfinder aircraft, crossed Tokyo Bay at 5,000 feet. Crew logs record the bombardier releasing the first incendiary clusters over the target zone, a giant X marked across downtown Tokyo's most densely populated district. What happened in the next 15 minutes would be documented by hundreds of B-29 crew members, Japanese survivors, and military observers as unlike anything ever witnessed in warfare. Mission Report Number 40 documents that by 0023 hours, just 15 minutes after the first bombs fell, the Pathfinder aircraft had ignited a massive X of fire across central Tokyo, visible from 100 miles away. B-29 navigator logs describe what crews saw as they approached, walls of flame rising thousands of feet into the air. Bombardier reports document using the fires themselves as aiming points. Original targets were already invisible under smoke and flames. The incendiary science was working exactly as designed. Chemical core testing data had proven that M69 clusters, each containing 47 individual bomblets, would scatter across a 2,000-foot pattern. Filled with jelly gasoline napalm gel, each bomblet would ignite on impact and burn at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 to 10 minutes. Tokyo Fire Department emergency logs record the rapid overwhelming of firefighting capacity. At 0035, dispatch logs show 20 separate fires reported. By 0050, just 42 minutes into the raid, over 125 major conflagrations were burning. Fire chief reports document crews unable to reach fire scenes due to intense heat blocking streets. The mathematical precision of LeMay's plan becomes clear in mission analysis. With 279 B-29s dropping ordnance over 2.5 hours, the attack rate sustained 1,850 individual fires being started per hour. Japanese fire department capacity studies had estimated they could handle 15 to 20 simultaneous fires. They were facing hundreds. Crew debriefing reports describe conditions that seem apocalyptic. Pilot accounts record severe turbulence from thermal updrafts. The heat rising from fires was tossing 70-ton aircraft like toys. Tail gunner reports documents seeing aircraft behind them rising 2,000 to 3,000 feet from superheated air columns. The fires had created a meteorological phenomenon. Weather reconnaissance post-raid analysis documented that the individual conflagrations merged into a firestorm, a self-sustaining thermal column that generated its own weather system. Wind speeds at ground level increased from 15 miles per hour to 70 miles per hour as the firestorm sucked in oxygen. Temperature measurements taken later indicated 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit at ground level in the fire zone. Japanese police situation reports, transmitted to Imperial headquarters throughout the night, document the collapse of civil defense. At 0130, police reported extensive fires beyond control. At 0200, massive civilian casualties, evacuation routes blocked. At 0230, complete communication breakdown with downtown districts. American losses were far lower than feared. Mission Report 40 documents 14 B-29s lost, a 5% loss rate, roughly normal for the campaign. Japanese night fighter reports claim 12 B-29s destroyed, anti-aircraft batteries claim 7, indicating Japanese defenses had been completely overwhelmed by numbers. The raid officially ended at 0300 hours when the last B-29 departed Tokyo airspace. Weather reconnaissance flyovers at dawn documented an urban firestorm still burning out of control. Aerial photography revealed approximately 16 square miles of Tokyo, an area equivalent to Manhattan from Greenwich Village to Central Park, completely burned to the ground. The single most devastating air attack in military history was complete. As dawn broke over Tokyo on March 10th, Japanese authorities began comprehending the unprecedented scale of catastrophe. Imperial General Headquarters situation reports from March 10th, 1945, preserved in military archives, document an initial refusal to believe the damage assessments coming from Tokyo. The first official report at 0600 hours estimated significant fire damage to eastern Tokyo districts. By 0900, reconnaissance reports forced a revision, catastrophic fire damage across 10 square kilometers. By noon, Tokyo Metropolitan Police preliminary casualty estimates were staggering: 100,000 killed or missing. Japanese military leadership had to confront a devastating reality documented in strategic reassessment memos from March 11th. In one night, American bombers had killed more Japanese civilians than all previous air raids combined. More people had died than in the Great Kanto earthquake of 1923, previously Japan's worst disaster. The military implications became clear in Air Defense Command reports. The same B-29s they had dismissed as slow and ineffective had just demonstrated the ability to destroy an entire city in hours. More disturbing, capture intelligence analysis reveals Japanese commanders realized the Americans could repeat this attack on any Japanese city anytime they chose. Japanese fighter pilot after-action reports tell a story of helplessness. With only 26 night fighters scrambled against 279 bombers, pilot accounts described being overwhelmed. They'd shot down 12 B-29s, considered a successful night, but intelligence officers calculated this was meaningless. The Americans had over 1,000 B-29s available. Japan had fewer than 400 fighters defending the entire home islands. The psychological impact appears in diplomatic communications intercepted through magic intelligence. Japanese foreign ministry cables to neutral embassies, decoded by American codebreakers, described unprecedented urban destruction and questioned whether Japanese cities could withstand systematic attacks of this nature. Most telling are prisoner of war interrogation reports from Japanese airmen captured in subsequent months. Multiple POWs, when asked about the Tokyo raid, used similar language: "We realized we could not win." One pilot, interrogated in June 1945, stated, "After Tokyo burned, we knew the American Air Force could destroy Japan whenever they decided to." Home Island's defense plans, captured after the war, show emergency revisions dated March 12 through 15, 1945. Strategic priorities shifted from intercepting bombers to dispersing critical industry and evacuating urban populations, a tacit admission that defending cities from American air attack was impossible. The confidence documented in Japanese intelligence reports from February had evaporated. LeMay had broken Japanese faith in their defenses in a single night. Strategic assessment documents from both American and Japanese commands reveal the immediate operational impact. XXI Bomber Command mission planning documents from March 11 onward reveal LeMay immediately escalated the campaign. Operation orders for missions 41 through 50 show LeMay scheduled firebombing raids against every major Japanese city. Within 10 days, operational records document Nagoya, Osaka, and Kobe received similar incendiary attacks. By April 1945, campaign summaries show the United States had burned 32 square miles of Japan's 4 largest cities. Japanese industrial production reports captured post-war reveal devastating impact. Manufacturing output declined 30% from March through May 1945. But more significantly, Home Ministry records document 8.5 million civilians evacuating major cities, creating massive labor shortages that crippled war production. LeMay's strategic assessment to General Arnold, dated March 15, 1945, preserved in Air Force archives, states, "Strategic bombing campaign achieving decisive results, recommend maximum effort continuation, Japanese industrial capacity, and civilian morale collapsing under sustained incendiary attack." The shift in American planning becomes clear in Joint Chiefs documents. Pre-Tokyo, strategic bombing was considered supplementary to invasion. Post-Tokyo, Joint Chiefs memos from April 1945 debate whether air attack alone might force Japanese surrender, potentially making the planned invasion unnecessary. Equally important, tactical assessments document the B-29's transformation. The same aircraft Japanese commanders had mocked in January was now, by April, recognized as the most devastating weapon in the Pacific War. Mission effectiveness rates jumped from 30%, high-altitude precision bombing, to 85%, low-altitude incendiary attack. Allied response appears in British and Soviet diplomatic communications. British Air Ministry sent observers to analyze LeMay's tactics, considering adapting them to European operations, though Germany surrendered in May. Soviet military attaches submitted detailed reports to Moscow analyzing American strategic bombing capabilities, significant given Cold War tensions already emerging. Media impact was substantial. American newspaper coverage, analyzed through press archives, shifted from questioning strategic bombing effectiveness to celebrating it as potentially war-winning. Public support for the air campaign strengthened dramatically. Most critically for the war's trajectory, intelligence assessments document Japanese military leadership privately acknowledging they could not defend against continued attacks. Decoded diplomatic communications showed Japanese Foreign Minister Togo informing neutral embassies that Japan's strategic position was deteriorating rapidly, language that would intensify through summer 1945, ultimately leading to surrender discussions. The mocked slow B-29s had fundamentally altered the Pacific War's strategic calculus. Military historians analyzing Operation Meeting House in subsequent decades have documented its profound significance. Military historians at the Air Force Historical Research Agency have conclusively documented Operation Meeting House as the deadliest single air attack in human history, more lethal than either atomic bombing. The statistics are stark in comparative analysis. United States Strategic Bombing Survey data shows Tokyo, March 10th, 100,000 plus killed. Hiroshima, August 6th, 70,000 to 80,000 killed initially. Nagasaki, August 9th, 40,000 killed initially. Academic assessments from United States Army War College note this reveals a sobering reality. Conventional strategic bombing, properly executed, proved as devastating as nuclear weapons. Tactical Doctrine Evolution documents at Air University show Operation Meeting House fundamentally changed American strategic bombing philosophy. LeMay's innovations, low-altitude night attack, area incendiary bombing, stripping defensive armament for increased payload, became standard doctrine. Korean War and Vietnam War bombing campaigns incorporated lessons directly from Tokyo. But military education materials also document the ethical controversies. Naval War College curriculum on laws of war includes Operation Meeting House as a case study in proportionality and discrimination principles. Post-war development of international humanitarian law, particularly 1977 additional protocols to Geneva Conventions, was influenced partly by strategic bombing campaigns against cities. The raid's effectiveness appears in Japanese strategic decision-making analysis. National defense. University studies examining Japan's surrender decision note that sustained strategic bombing, initiated effectively at Tokyo, was one of three critical factors alongside naval blockade and atomic bombs that convinced Japanese leadership continuation of war was impossible. Technological legacy documentation from aviation history sources shows the B-29 validated as a war-winning weapon system. The $3 billion development cost, questioned before March 1945, was retrospectively justified. Aircraft design evolution shows the B-29 directly influenced post-war bomber development, leading to the B-50, B-36, and eventually B-52. Most significantly, professional military education materials identify Operation Meeting House as demonstrating the decisive potential of air power. Air Force Doctrine Development documents trace modern strategic air campaign planning, emphasis on overwhelming force, identification of enemy vulnerabilities, innovative tactics, directly to LeMay's approach. Historical assessments note the cruel irony. Japanese commanders who mocked the B-29 as too slow and ineffective were proven catastrophically wrong. What they failed to understand, documented in post-war analysis, was that the B-29's limitations at high altitude became devastating advantages at low altitude when paired with appropriate weaponry and tactics. Curtis LeMay's personnel records show rapid promotion following Tokyo. He became youngest four-star general in United States military history. His career trajectory from a firebombing campaign to leading Strategic Air Command during the Cold War demonstrates how one night over Tokyo validated an entire approach to strategic warfare. The raid that Japanese commanders never expected remains studied in military academies worldwide as the definitive example of tactical innovation and strategic surprise. The documented lessons from that night in March 1945 continue resonating in military strategy today. Military historians have documented the core lesson from Operation Meeting House with remarkable clarity: never underestimate American innovation when conventional approaches fail. Japanese commanders made a fatal analytical error documented throughout their intelligence assessments. They evaluated the B-29 based on how Americans were using it in late 1944, not how it could be used with tactical innovation. They assumed American doctrine was fixed. They believed they understood American capabilities. Curtis LeMay proved assumptions kill. Official records show that in one night, he invalidated months of Japanese intelligence analysis, rewrote strategic bombing doctrine, and demonstrated that the same slow, ineffective bombers could become war-winning weapons when employed innovatively. The numbers tell the story with brutal clarity. 100,000 plus killed in one night, verified by United States Strategic Bombing Survey. 267,171 buildings destroyed, documented by Japanese government. 16 square miles burned, confirmed by aerial reconnaissance. Only 14 B-29s lost, recorded in mission reports. Japanese military leadership learned too late what military colleges now teach. American military excellence often emerges not from superior numbers or technology alone, but from tactical innovation that transforms existing capabilities. The raid also demonstrates a darker truth documented by historians. Total war pushed boundaries of proportionality in ways that continue generating ethical debate. The effectiveness documented in military records exists alongside human costs that scholars still grapple with understanding. If you found this documented analysis of history's deadliest air raid compelling, this channel provides research-based deep dives into World War II's most significant but often overlooked moments. Every fact is verified through primary sources. Every statistic backed by official documentation. Next video reveals another instance of catastrophic enemy miscalculation. German tank commanders laughed at America's inferior Shermans, then faced 76mm tungsten at Cologne. Subscribe to see how American tactical adaptation consistently defeats enemy overconfidence. Want to dive deeper? Full source bibliography available at the channel resource page. Because as military history proves repeatedly, mock American slowness at your peril. Innovation, not initial performance, wins wars.